Hello everyone and welcome to the YouTube channel of Being ACCA. With this video, we are continuing the solving of our PM pre-June mock of 2026. This is the third and the last case study from section B. In the previous two videos, we've covered the two section B case studies. This is the third and the last one, and in the videos to come, we will continue to cover the rest of the paper. So this question is about the Peleton group. The bikes division, division B, and the treads division, division T are two divisions of Peleton group. Whilst both divisions operate in similar markets, each division operates separately as an investment center. So they are separately operating as investment centers. Each month, operating statements must be prepared by each division, and these are used as a basis of performance measurement of the divisions. In the past, ROI has been calculated using controllable profits. Further, it's being told to me that the last month, the senior management decided to include all fixed costs and recharge head office costs to the divisions. Consequently, each division is now going to be required to deduct all fixed costs and a share of head office costs in its operating statement before arriving at the net profit, which is then used to calculate the ROI. The company's target ROI is 25% per annum. For each of the last 3 months, using previous controllable profit basis, division T and B have been above this, resulting in healthy bonuses that were being awarded to the staff. The company has a cost of capital of 10%. The following is the budgeted statement, operating statement given to us using the new basis for calculating the ROI. Further, Peleton Group is concerned about the behavioral effects on its performance measures and wants to encourage the goal congruence. Now, the very first question is asking me which of the following options is the correct expected ROI using the old method where we used to look at the controllable profit. So guys, if you have a look right now, net profits, we've subtracted uncontrollable fixed costs and we have subtracted apportioned head office costs also. So if I need to find out my ROI figure using my old method, in my net profit, I have to add back the things which were not in the control of my manager. So the head office recharge of 240 plus the controllable fixed costs of 120. These costs were not in control of the bikes division's manager. So I add these to the net profit, which makes the numerator as 840. Denominator for my ROI will be my net assets. So I just simply divide this numerator by the denominator of divisional assets of 3000. So this gives me 0.28, that is 28%, which means my answer should be option 4. Let me also cross-check this working for treads division. So for treads division, the net profit figure is 240. I add back, which is not in my control. So I add back the apportioned head office cost and I add back the uncontrollable fixed cost of 1200. This gives me 1260 divided by the divisional assets of 1600. This gives me 240 plus 180 is the head office cost, and then we have the uncontrollable fixed costs as well. I think there's a misprint over here. This should be 120. Let's see what we are able to calculate with that. 240 plus 180 plus 120, and this divided by the net assets of 1600. Yeah, that way we will arrive at 33.75. So this is a misprint over here. Please ensure that you are striking through this. This is only 120 and not 1200. So this is the answer for the first question. Now moving ahead to the second question basis the same case study. The divisional managing directors have heard that a performance measure called residual income, which may provide more information and be a better measure of the bonuses. Now you have to calculate the residual income for each of the divisions based on the new method of net profit figures calculated in the table. So these are my net profit figures, 480 and 240. So based on these numbers, I now want to calculate my residual income. So I start with my net profit figure of 480 for the bikes division. How do I calculate residual income? I simply take away the imputed interest. So imputed interest will be the rate of the cost of capital is 10%. My assets are 3,000. So 3,000 times 10%. So 300 is my interest. So from 80, if I take away 300, $180,000 is actually the residual income for bikes. Similarly, I can do this working for Tread also. Tread has a total profit of 240. From 240, if I, take away the interest, so they have assets that are worth 1,600 into 10%. So now for this division, we are going to be left with $80,000. So I put 80 over here. Very easy. So far, so good. Let's have a look at the third question based on the same case study. Two of the divisional managers in Peleton Group disagree on the performance measure which should be used to determine their bonus for the year. Manager 1 is the manager of the larger division bikes, while manager 2 is the manager of the smaller division Treads. Manager 1 prefers to use the residual income and has given the following examples of the limitations of ROI to support this decision. So basically, manager 1 is preferring to go with residual income, and he says that ROI has certain limitations because of which RI should be used. So the first statement tells me that ROI requires an estimate of the cost of capital, a figure which will be difficult to calculate. Can this be my answer? Absolutely not. Manager 1 is saying that we should use residual income, but even for residual income, I need to know my cost of capital. So this is not just a limitation of ROI alone. This also applies to RI. Second statement tells you ROI can overemphasize short-term performance at the expense of the long-term performance. This is something which can happen in residual income also. Third statement tells you if assets are valued at net book value, ROI figures generally improve as the assets get older. This can encourage the managers to retain outdated plant and machinery. So guys, this also, like ROI, is common with RI also. Why? Because in RI also, I am subtracting the imputed interest on my assets. So if my assets are lesser than value, lesser in value, then the imputed interest will also be lesser. Lesser will be subtracted from my profit to come to residual income. So this limitation is with RI also. Now I know that option 4 has to be my final answer, but let's also understand why that is the final answer. ROI is a relative measure. Therefore, small investments with a high rate of return may appear preferable to a large investment with low ROI. However, the larger investment may be worth it in absolute terms. So you can see manager 1, what part was he managing? He was actually managing the larger division. So he is saying rather than going for ROI, let us go for residual income. Why? Because ROI is actually a relative measure. So small investments can give you a high rate of return. Even if the larger investments that the company is going to make, they can come with small ROI, but they will definitely bring more profits to the companies in terms of dollars. So that is why this is the agreement, or you can say this is the argument, a valid reason that this manager will give for using ROI, for using RI, residual income, and not the return on investment. Moving forward to the second last question based on this case study, Division T has now been offered an immediate opportunity to invest in new machinery at a cost of $2 million. The machinery would be expected to expand Division T's production capacity, resulting in an increase in profit of $450,000 per annum. Which two of the following are true statements about the opportunity and the managerial behavior? So they have Division T. So if we're talking about Treads, they are thinking to invest $2 million, and then this is going to result in an increased profit of $450,000. So we have to select based on ROI, will this be accepted or rejected? The division will reject based on RI or on the basis of RI or ROI. We have to decide about that. Both division and company will accept on the basis of RI. Based on RI, opportunity will be rejected by the group and accepted by the. So basically, I just have to check for RI and ROI, who is going to accept and then who is going to reject. So for this, I will need to do my calculations of both of the things. Firstly, for my ROI calculations, I know that this new investment is going to increase my profits by $450,000. So if I calculate the ROI, $450,000 divided by 2 million of investment. So this gives me a return of 22.5%, whereas at the company level, the minimum target that I should meet is 22% per annum. So, on the basis of ROI, the company is definitely going to reject. Now let's see what will the division do. We are saying that opportunity will be accepted by the group. So this option we can very easily eliminate, because this says it will be accepted by the group, but it will be rejected because this gives you ROI of 22.5, but your target at the company is 25%. Now let's see what the division is going to do. So if you have your division also, for the division, we had calculated their current ROI right now. So their current ROI actually looked like 28%. So if they're already earning a return of 28%, there's no way that they will go for that particular project wherein they are going to get a lesser ROI. So division is going to reject on the basis of ROI. Now let me find out what will happen on the basis of residual income. So for this, I will also calculate my residual income. Residual income will simply be $450,000 of profits that I will make. From this, take away the imputed interest. So on $2 million, 10% interest. So that gives you $250,000 positive. So this is something which the group will also like, the division will also like. So both the division and the company will accept on the basis of RI. This is true. Second statement is also true. Division will reject on the basis of ROI because they are currently earning more than 22.5, but they are also going to accept on the basis of residual income. Last statement cannot be my answer because it says that based on residual income, it will be rejected by the division. Division will not reject because on the basis of RI, we are still left with $250,000 extra residual income. Now, moving ahead to the last question basis this case study, which of the following could lead to an increase in management bonus without benefiting the organization? So a manager holds on to heavily depreciated assets so that he can avoid any heavy investments. So guys, definitely this is something which will benefit the manager, because if he has older assets which are heavily depreciated, then the value of capital employed, that is my denominator, will be lesser. So my final ROI figure will look more attractive and I will get more bonus. But does this benefit the company? Absolutely not. Keeping old assets does not benefit the company. So one has to be one of my answers. Now I move forward towards the second statement. A sales manager has changed their fixed target to a relative target that's based on the market share. Now guys, this is something which will be useful for the company as a whole, because if I'm setting the target on the basis of market share, more sales will be expected when sales are increasing overall in the market. So this is something which will add controllability. Managers will be able to do better. They will be held responsible only if the market rose and their performance did not rise. So controllability will be more incorporated. This does not harm the managers or the organization, it rather benefits. So second does not have to be my answer. Third statement says So with the options itself, I get to know that my answer will be this statement because 2 is not one of my answers. So if I have a look at the third statement, a divisional manager of a buying division buys internally from another division at a slightly cheaper price than they get from the external supplier. The selling division is at full capacity and cannot sell to all its external customers as it would like, losing contribution on these sales. This lost contribution is higher than the increased cost from the external supplier. So definitely this will benefit that division who is buying things for cheaper, but overall to the company as a whole, this will not benefit. So 1 and 3 are my final answers. So with this, we have come to an end to this particular case study on the Peleton group. I'll see you people in the next video where we are going to continue with this mock further. All the very best. Thank you for watching.